Hey, everybody, welcome to the Grow Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Kevin McNulty, and this is your personal development school of growth, where each week my guests and I will bring and break down big ideas and practices that will help you learn, grow, and succeed in life. Thanks for checking us out. Now let the growth begin. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Grow Yourself, where we like to help people learn, grow, change, really just improve a little bit, you know, on a daily basis, just to become better human beings. Um, Many years ago, while I was in the U.S. Air Force and I was getting ready, no, I was in the process of getting certified for, at the time it was called the Franklin Covey Leadership Program, and they were integrating 7 habits, principle-centered leadership, first things first, what matters most, all those sorts of things into the military. And truly, at least from the education standpoint and from the personal growth standpoint, it was one of the more profound points in my life because I learned so much. I mean, we spent a couple of weeks training on all of Stephen Covey's work and just really delving into it. And among the many things that really stuck with me was this principle that Stephen Covey said it comes out of habit one, which is to be proactive. And the principle is this, that any time that you think the problem is out there, that is the problem. And it's a powerful reminder that personal growth and leadership always starts within. In fact, I would suggest that nearly every aspect of human endeavor works from the inside out. And so, in the context of leadership, if you will, before we can effectively influence anyone, we have to take ownership of our emotions, our mindset, and the choices that we make every day. And some people misunderstand Stephen Covey's um, first habit of the 7 habits of highly effective people, be proactive, and think that it's just being proactive, being a proactive person. I mean, that's part of it. But really, what he was trying to say is be proactive with who you are, starting by taking 100% responsibility and accountability for who you are. And therefore, everything that you begin to recognize that everything comes out of you is your responsibility. And so, frankly, that is the heart of what our conversation is today. It's the principle of leading yourself first. Now, my guest and close friend, John Bentley, has frankly spent his life helping people understand these principles that are rooted in the very idea, the kind of self-leadership that shapes character, builds trust, and transforms how we lead others. And in fact, he's recently released a book that dives deep into this principle. So, John Bentley is my guest. He is a leadership expert, he's an author, he's an Air Force veteran, he's a follower of Christ with more than 35 years of experience developing leaders and teams. He's the founder of Power to Transform and a nonprofit foundation called You Are a Gift, which we hope he will mention. Both of these organizations are you, you know um, are dedicated to helping people discover their value and potential. His new book, I Lead Me: Mastering the Act of Self-Leadership to Create the Life You Desire, captures the lessons he's taught for decades, showing that the greatest leadership journey begins within. And I want to add something personal here, that all of the aforementioned that I just stated, I know to be 100% true because John happens to be one of my closest friends and colleagues. We have been masterminding and brainstorming together for more than 20 years. He knows my work and I know his work. I would submit like no one else. We've watched each other, we've supported each other to grow in our fields of speaking, coaching, and I would say philosophizing. And I also know John to be truly one of the most loving and giving people on this planet. And it gives me just the greatest amount of joy to have him on Grow Yourself. John Bentley, my brother, welcome to Grow Yourself.
Thank you, brother Kevin. Just that monologue. I used to say, "Oh, that's not me," and part of leading yourself is to learn to say, "Thank you, Kevin, for sharing those confirming words." It means that I put in the work with other people loving me to become the person that I want to be, even though there was a lot of slips, trips, and falls along the way. But the one thing I didn't do was give up because people didn't give up on me.
Yes. And, it's a funny thing that here we are on this podcast. Now, this is the second time actually you've been on my podcast. I think last time was maybe a year or two ago. But, everything you just said, I've heard 1,000 times from you. And I love that. You're so consistent with the things that you think and say over the years. And it's just been an interesting journey, our relationship from the standpoint that you and I have been on many Zoom meetings together. We've prayed together. We've talked about everything under the sun. And I'll just now speak from my standpoint. I've just been able to watch you grow over the years and to really just be, frankly, one of the best consultants and coaches, thought leaders in the market. And, and I mean that sincerely. So listen, would you just tell the audience a little bit about, who is John Bentley? Tell us a little bit about where you were brought up and, just kind of bring us up to today, if you will.
Yeah, I'll start with 41 years of public service, which I just retired from in December of 2023. And God put on my heart, it's not a retirement, it's a renewal. I'm going to come back to that in a minute and back up to the 41 years. 21 of that was spent serving in the United States Air Force. And thank you, Kevin, for your service and a veteran. And I retired out of the Air Force in March of 2003. And then I found myself working for the government again as a federal employee, but this time as an Army civilian for 20 years. And to think about how God has a plan for us that most times, at least I didn't see, and sometimes not trust, is everything that took place over that 41 years has brought me to where I am today. And where I am today, I'm married to my lovely bride, Laura Bentley, for 25 years. It's both our second marriages. And a lot of your listening audience may have gone through this or understand it. We both needed some healing to take place in that. And thank goodness what Laura taught me was, number one, how to love myself again and how to love others, because I'd come out of about 3 years of a divorce to my childhood sweetheart, and it just really caused me to get into a spin. So I think sometimes we all hit those moments in our life where spirals occur. And sometimes, at least for me, I would revert back to behaviors that weren't healthy just so I could feel okay with myself. So through where I am today, it's really about going and sharing with people and helping them bring out the greatness that God put in them so that they then can be the salt and light of this earth.
Yeah. So beautifully said, really just a great and quick capture of your at least your last 41 years. Now, I will say that it's apparent to me and wouldn't be apparent to other people that you are going to hide this podcast from Laura because you didn't call her your boss. You said my lovely bride. And so, okay, but whatever, John, we'll accept that.
Yes, I will, or I'll ask you to cut that out. No, I'm teasing.
So listen, but if I may ask, even just up front, if you would share about the passing of your daughter, because that was clearly a pivotal moment in your life that I know you have learned and grown from in ways that many of us can't imagine. Would you just please share that because it's an important context to your life and what has led you to this point?
Yeah, it was December the 11th, 2010. It was Laura and I's 11th anniversary. So at that time, both my biological daughters, Natalie and Krista, of course, were living. And with the marriage came 3 bonus babies.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of lessons there as well. So Laura and I just finished eating lunch at one of our favorite places, P.F. Chang's. We had the Mongolian beef. She likes it well done, like leather, and I like mine medium. And we hopped in a vehicle and we're driving, and we see Krista Prestige come up on the dashboard receiving a phone call, and look at each other and go, look, our first happy anniversary from our kiddos. And the next three words changed everything. Krista said, Dad, Natalie's dead.
Mm.
And yeah, I just swallowed kind of like I did then. And just up front, Natalie passed away from complications of prescription drug addiction.
Mm.
So, a lot took place over an 8-year period. The bottom line is I wandered around in the wilderness like the Israelites did. I put on 50 pounds, still carrying 20 of that. And I went back into what gave John value, which is if I just work hard enough, if I just achieve, I'll have value. And
Mm.
then I turned back into that people pleaser that I was growing up as well, to where, Kevin, if I think you're okay with me, I'm okay with me. But then a great friend of mine that I'm looking at right now in this call, Kevin McNulty, gave me a phone call and basically said, hey, John, this isn't you. This isn't who God designed you to be. And you encouraged me. Not only did you encourage me, you showed me empathy early on. It wasn't about, I'm so sorry for your loss. It was, hey, John, I can't imagine what this is like for you. But no matter what you're feeling, what you're going through, it's okay, John. And, you handle grief in a way that makes sense to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so
That's right.
you didn't do the normal because people don't know what to say.
Yeah.
You knew how to plug into me and just let me know you might not understand how I'm feeling, but
Yeah.
it's okay how you're feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then 8 years later, though, you encouraged me to write a letter to my future self 5 years into the future. So on December the 11th, 2018, I wrote that letter and dated it December the 11th, 2023. And from that came the You Are a Gift Foundation, where we raised money through my speaking and training to give to faith-based inpatient treatment centers so they can give that money to moms that can't afford their services. It became the book You Are a Gift.
Mm.
And so to the listening audience, gift is God's image, fulfill talent. So I
Mm-hmm.
want everyone that's listening and watching to know you are a gift made in God's image to fulfill your talent and service to others. And when the Holy Spirit's leading you, the way you do that is you serve humbly in love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And boy, what a blessing that is. It's hard to, I mean, none of us look back on our lives at some very difficult moment, trauma, and say, I'm glad that happened. Um, but I think people like you and others, they allow God, we'll just put it this way, they allowed God to do what he says, and that is to turn difficulties and trials into great purpose and great outcomes. And I think, there's a wide spectrum of things that people will do. And it's beautiful to see what you've done with the Gift Foundation, to turn Natalie's, l- I guess, legacy into helping other people with what she so struggled for. And we're going to make sure, by the way, that that link is in the show notes and all that sort of thing, so that people can contribute to it if they will.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about your book, because I really do want the focus of this conversation to be about your book and all of the wisdom that you dropped in there. And so the title of the book is I Lead Me. And I guess I'll just ask maybe the most cliche-ish question you could ask an author, and that is, what inspired you to write the book?
Well, I'd always wanted to write a leadership book, and I thought it had to be full of theory, a lot of research, and pull things together, which I can just tell you that was like me trying to pull a boulder uphill to do that. But I believe that's what I needed to do.
Yeah.
And then in September 2023, I attended, and David Abram, a
Oh,
phenomenal
yeah.
speaker in customer
Yes.
experience, he had Write Your Book retreats. And it wasn't about sitting down and putting pen to paper and writing your book. It was create the structure of how to write it. So I'm sitting there still thinking about all this theory. And all of a sudden he says to somebody else, Bob, just write the book to yourself. Don't care whether it sells. Get out of your head, just start writing. And all of a sudden the light bulb went off. And what I decided to do was, I was 60, almost 63 at the time. So imagine on a sheet of paper that's horizontal, I write 63 on the right hand side and my first memories of about 3 year olds on the left. And I went through and identified significant events and people in my life that shaped who I am today. And that led to me coming up with 28 chapters, with each chapter having a little bit of a story that I went through that shaped who I am as a leader. And I stuck to the process. Sometimes it was frustrating,
Mm,
needed help editing, but here's the key. Whether it sells a copy or not, I get to look at John's life
hmm.
in stories and see how God was there in every step of the way.
Interesting. That's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jane talks about that. My wife, Jane, she talks about that with respect to journaling. And in essence, that's, that's what you did, maybe in a more condensed period of time. But this idea that you can go back and look at your life and sort of see things that you may not just, you may not connect the dots if you're just thinking about it. So it sounds like that's what you did.
Well, it's interesting too. Now that you say that, is one of the things that I chose to do, and I encourage others who do this. When you're looking back on your life, you know, don't don't let the past cause you to be a victim or a prisoner. Hold it out to where you can see it and be objective about it,
Yeah, it's
and
beautiful.
recognize that it's information that you can choose what you want to do with about that. And so I actually cried during some of it. I laughed during some of it. In the end, though, I recognized that had God not allowed that to happen, he I wouldn't have been shaped into the person that I am today
Yeah,
to represent him to the world in a
yeah,
way that people feel loved, no matter whether they're agreeing or disagreeing with me.
yeah.
And that people have a chance to choose differently, just like you do with your work. You plant those seeds
Mm.
that give people the opportunity to say, I hadn't thought about it that way. And if I do choose to learn from this, what would that look like?
Yeah, boy, that's so beautifully said. When you think about, and again, these are things you and I have talked about many times over, but the notion that you you have this long background behind you, or for of however many years, and in a sense, it could just be information that informs you about. In your case, you said you could see by writing your book where God was involved in all aspects of it. But people often ask, "Oh, I mean, what do I do with all of this? I was traumatized." And in fact, you well know this, that it's almost a badge of honor these days to have like this long list of traumas in your life and things that have put you down. And some people round it off and say, "Look at this massive mountain that I overcame, and so now I'm this, that, and the other." So some do that, but others just live in their victimhood. And I think what I know about you and what you've done is allowed God to actually, let's just say, convert or transform your history, your life into something very meaningful, and that's actually biblical, as I recall.
Well, and as you said earlier, you mentioned about fighting good for his purpose. Romans 8:28, which we always hear.
Yeah,
I want us to add on Romans 8:29, because 8:29 really describes the good of what God allows to happen, or what I choose and things happen to me.
yeah.
And it's to transform us into the likeness of Christ,
Mm,
which we know will never happen till the day I take my last breath and he calls me to heaven. And
right.
that's what I'm promoting now. Is I can look back and see Alex, who was almost 5. That's Natalie's son. He was almost 5 when she passed. I
Mm,
know the trauma he went through. He's 19 today. My biological daughter, Krista and Kendall, became instant parents with him and gave him love and security. But you
mm,
want to talk about trauma of a mom who was addicted to prescription drugs,
mm.
probably lived in a home that there was some abuse, not necessarily to him physically, and recognize it. And here's what's interesting, you reminded me of, Kevin, is when he had been with Krista for about 18 months, he asked her this question: Nanny, Krista, when are you going to die?
Mm.
Now, I don't think he was concerned about the death more than he was concerned about, this is my belief. I have not asked him, and I won't unless he wants to talk about it. Is I think he was concerned about being abandoned again.
Oh my, interesting.
So you transfer a little bit 2 years later, and he withdraws, which you think would be normal, right? But here's the question he asked her: uh, Nanny Krista, is it okay if I love you more than I love my real mommy?
Oh, Lord. Wow.
So you see, he was starting to feel
Sure.
safe and secure. And is it
Yes,
okay to
that's right.
separate
That's right.
from this? And I
Yeah.
think all that plays into trauma, which I'll go back to when I was being raised, a 7-year-old little boy in me. Dad would say, "This, don't cry. I'll give you something to
Cry
cry about."
about. That's
I
right.
learned to be invisible. I didn't matter.
Mm,
See, children are to be seen and not
heard.
heard. I learned I couldn't express myself no matter
Yep.
what. So I stuffed all my emotions inside. And then this is going to hurt you more than it hurts me. So I learned that when people that love me were causing me pain, in reality, in my 7-year-old
Yeah.
undeveloped brain, that I'm hurting people when, even though they're hurting me.
Yeah.
And so that rolled over into an adulthood where I learned to become a workaholic because that's where
Mm-hmm.
I got value, but I had to do it over and over. I learned to please people
Mm-hmm.
because, again, as I said earlier, if you're okay with me, I'm okay with me. And then that led to early on abuse of alcohol, which thank goodness I got past that. But it also leaned into I'm an emotional eater.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that was caused by the internal story I told myself, not what happened to me. So Dr. Gabor, Gabor, Mate, Mate, the little apostrophe above the E, I recently heard him on Mel Robbins' podcast. He said trauma is not what happens to you, it's what happens inside you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that what happened to you should have never happened. You didn't deserve it. And now you have the responsibility to quit letting your past of what happened to you and how you process it leak into your present.
Yes.
Because what you end up doing is cutting people and causing them to bleed that never had anything to do with what
Yeah.
happened to you.
Yeah. Wow. Beautifully said. Really beautifully said. And there, and again, going back to Stephen Covey's first habit of being proactive, of taking, just owning that stuff, even though you didn't deserve it, you didn't cause it, you didn't bring it into your life, but now you own it, whether you like it or not,
Amen.
you
Amen.
know. And it's a hard place to get to for a lot of people. I've gone down that road of letting everybody else own who I am and why I behave the way that I do. And I probably still do it in episodes, but I certainly can at least intellectually and I think even emotionally say, whatever happened to me in my past, I own that now. And
Yes.
so I get to decide what I do with it. If somebody else owns it, I can't do anything about it. I can't do anything with it. If I own it, I can choose, as you said, to do something about it. It's a beautiful thing. John, would
Well,
you go ahead, please, please?
I like that piece about own it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
chapter 2 is about, I forget the title exactly. It's about behavior, and I got to host Stephen M. R. Covey a few times at Redstone Arsenal, and he said a statement, which is the quote for chapter 2, is you can't behave your way out of something you talked your way into. You can't
Yeah.
talk your way out of something you behaved your way into.
Yes, absolutely.
And so that part about ownership is choosing your action. Is the action I'm about to take, which is a behavior, going to have a payoff or a cost?
Yeah.
And so you reminded me of that, Kevin, and thank you. I appreciate it very much.
No, absolutely. I was just looking for that. So the chapter two's behavior is a choice. Every action builds or breaks trust. It's a beautiful thing. Well, listen, John, let me just ask real quick. Could you just sort of summarize your book? Tell the audience, or answer this question. What is your book about? I Lead Me. What is it about?
It really is about choosing your actions, which is behavior. So in any situation you're in, I don't care what it is, whether you're with yourself, whether you're with others, one on one, whether it's a small group, large group, the behavior I'm about to choose, is it going to earn people's trust or destroy trust? And then if it earns trust, then you can lead with purpose because we know where we're headed and what we're going to do. Now, when I say behavior is a choice, I like to use this analogy or metaphor, Kevin. We're all behavioral vehicles based on our life experiences, our personality, who we are, what we've been through in life. And for those watching and listening, if you were to think about yourself, what vehicle would describe you. And for me, it'd be a 1968 Candy Apple Red Camaro 396 Super Sport. It's powerful. I look good and I know I'm coming. Now, when I'm out on the interstate driving, I press the limits a little bit, 75, sometimes 85. But invariably, when you're on your way to a major city, situations are going to come up that don't allow you to drive safely like that. So here's the point. When the situation changes and you're going to choose a behavior that require more energy of you in order to have a payoff versus a cost, what do? For me, I'm still that 1968 Candy Apple Red Camaro. I back off the accelerator. I turn the radio off because for some reason I can see better. I don't know why, but I can see better. And even though I feel some angst or pressure in me to go fast, to figure it out, to make it happen quicker, I just ask, is what you're about to do going to build trust, destroy trust? And will it either allow you to lead with purpose or lead from your own desires?
Interesting. Boy, and that's a very compelling point there. You know, in your book, John, you talk about the old boss, of life. What exactly is that, the old boss?
Yeah, it's the way you grew up and the perceptions that you perceive about life. Because here's what I know about in studying the brain, and we're not going to get into any medical terms, is this part of our brain does not fully develop until around age 25 or 26 on average.
My
So now,
wife says I'm still trying to develop mine, but whatever, we'll just keep going.
well, I'll be honest with you. When I first understood that at age 63, I was a little bit upset with myself. Why do I keep doing dumb things then? Right?
Yeah,
Why? And you're right. Our
yeah,
spouses are so good at helping reshape us. I love that
that's
about
right.
them.
That's right.
And so when you're being raised and you're told those things, children to be seen, not heard, or you're told that, you're never going to make it to college if you keep doing this, or even if you told, hey, we're we're McNulty's, we don't lose. Well,
Hmm.
as a child, not saying you said that, just using it
Hmm.
as an example, as a child, we can't process why dad may be getting ready to whip me for something I didn't do.
Yeah.
Or why can't I speak up? Why won't dad let me speak up? So that becomes our reality. And my reality, based on hearing that, the old boss was, you're not good enough. You got to work hard to prove yourself and please people so they'll like you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
so
good.
when that becomes your script, your tape that's continually running, or as we'll say today, that's your streaming video and audio
Hmm.
in situations, that is your old boss. We want to push that old boss aside and recognize, as you said earlier, we get to own our choices. And I think, Kevin,
Hmm.
part of that becomes from self-awareness. Now, there's a research
Yeah,
study
that's
that says
interesting.
95% of people believe they're self-aware, when in reality, the only 10 to 15% are.
I would, yeah,
And
yeah.
so if I don't understand my personality and how to use that in a way that, I'll just say, glorifies God and lifts others up, I'm going to revert back under pressure to that old boss, and I'm going to show up in ways that I'm trying to prove myself. For the first chapter of the book tells my Coke can story, where I
Mm.
was pulled aside and told that I was like a shook Coke can that popped
Hmm.
its top under pressure and
Hmm.
spewed over people. That was the day I decided to figure out why I spiraled out of control when things didn't go my way.
Mm. John, how would you define self-awareness, by the way?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm gonna think about that for just a minute, Kevin. I think it's got to be more than just your personality.
Hmm.
And I think it's got to be more of people just saying, what are your personal core values? It's got to, for me, I got to look back and determine what's causing me to behave in ways that are a cost to myself and others.
Mm.
So when you
Mm.
think cost again, me overworking, what's my family believing about me? If I
Mm.
constantly put in 80-hour work weeks, or I come home and I'm on my cell phone scrolling or on my computer or taking phone calls, what's my family starting to believe about me?
Yeah.
Dad cares more about work than he does us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And uh, I think I'm doing what I'm supposed to do to provide for my family, and I'm not recognizing that being a workaholic is really about me trying to feel like I'm valuable. Now I'm
Yeah.
speaking for me. I can't speak for
No, no,
anybody else.
absolutely.
Um, and so part of that is understanding why you keep making decisions or behavior choices that when you finish, wow, I could have handled that better. Or why
Hmm.
do I keep doing this?
Hmm.
Don't stop at asking the question.
Right.
Inquire, dig, and do it with not a way to beat yourself up or to be a victim, but to really come out of this and going, I can make different choices. I can put
Yeah.
my phone down.
Yeah.
I can unplug my computer. I can be present both physically and emotionally with my family and my
Yeah.
children. So we talk about self awareness. I'm not so sure that everybody puts in the work to become fully self aware.
Very well said. And I love that. And you and I have talked about this many times that, that self-awareness, you're right. I don't know about the statistics, I mean, but I would agree that I think maybe the reason 95% or whatever the number was of people believe that they are self-aware is because they simply recognize some things. And you're separating this idea of simply recognizing, yeah, I probably could be a nicer person from being more deeply self-aware as to why am I not a nice person, and therefore what do I need to do to become a better person. And I think your idea about the old boss is goes straight to self-awareness, recognizing. So if we said self-awareness is being more aware of yourself, of self and all the components of self, the old boss, you become aware that the old boss has been in control and is controlling your life. And then to your point, you start to seek deeper inquiry and start to look at that and try to understand why that's impacting you so much, and therefore then what needs to happen. Correct?
Absolutely, Kevin. So, in one of the things that I do when I'm coaching and working with leaders, I have them draw out their mental model map, like I discussed with you, and let's uncover where something may be causing you to, I'll say, over amplify your natural strengths. Like me, I love bringing a group of people together and let's get on a task and make it happen. But once we've decided where we're going, I'm no longer people focused. I'm strictly about the task. And then if somebody asks a question, if I don't watch myself, I will just push harder on the task. We've talked about that already. Let's keep moving
Mm,
versus saying, hey, let's stop for a minute and talk about that. Let's see how that relates to where we're going. It may or
yeah,
may not.
yeah,
And
yeah,
just recognizing that I have a tendency to push sometimes when it's not called for.
yeah. Oh man, love that. So John, why do, in your way of thinking and your research and many years of practicing, why do people struggle to lead themselves? I mean, what is maybe the big reason, if there is, if you can just point to one?
Yeah, they truly don't take the time to understand themselves, the greatness that's in them, and how to use that in a way to serve humbly when leading themselves and others. There's this need to feel significant, there's this need to make a difference. And sometimes I become so blind to that that I forget about people that are around me. And Kevin, I want to add to that as well. We also sometimes sit back and wonder, are we making a difference?
Mm,
And that became real to me when Laura and I moved to Montgomery, Alabama after we married. And that was my last duty assignment. And Mike, who was 7 at the time, played YMCA basketball.
mm,
And I'm starting to wonder, how am I going to make a difference in these kids' lives? I certainly didn't make a difference in my biological children's lives. This was 1999, 2000 era.
mm, mm,
And we're at the last practice, and I'm kind of focused on work, and
mm.
all of a sudden practice is over and Mike comes running up holding the t-shirt which read on the front, YMCA Millbrook Basketball League.
Mm,
And I thought, wow, that's cool. Mike's got a t-shirt. But then he turned it around, his numbers on it, but guess what's written at the top?
mm.
Mike's dad.
Oh my gosh.
So what I want people to
Mm,
realize is, yeah, it's important we get results and we accomplish things. Don't let the results become your focus.
mm,
Know that the behavior and just being with people and lifting them up and they know you care about them is going to ensure that the results get done, whether it's at home, whether it's at work, whether it's in the community, is you become the person that other people look up to, not because you're great, but because you're treating them different than 99% of anybody
mm.
else. This person gets me, they care about me, and I want to help them succeed.
Yeah. Uh, some of these ideas, they fall down into some simple principles, you know. I know and I tell this little anecdote, I guess you could say all the time that, w- you know, from time to time when I'm working with a leader and, you know, they bring up something to the effect of, you know, how do I build relationships with people that worked for me, my direct reports or whatever the case might be. And I'm kind of cutting this part of that conversation short, you know, and but eventually get around to, well, you know, try this. When you walk in the morning, you know, smile at them and say good morning. And they look at me like, what? Hey, dude, seriously, I'm paying you how much to tell me that? And you know, and I'm saying, well, often things come down to very simple practices. It's not, it's, you know, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, if you will, you know, thinking to be able to get to a point of how you develop a better relationship. I mean, so if you know, if we get into more specifics, of course, there's more specifics to talk about. But if you're talking about general practices, sometimes they just come down to very simple ideas. Let me ask this, John, about I lead me, and how does that apply? I mean, we can assume, and I've read the book, so I understand this, but I'd like you to share how I lead me applies to people who lead others. How, you know, how do you suggest that that all comes together?
Well, I'm going to give a little bit of statistics up front.
Please.
There's different research models that say brand new leaders, who most of us were great performers as individuals, get put into a leadership role. And now we're responsible not only for getting results, but now we got to get it through them with others. Well,
Mm,
the research tells us anywhere from 50 to 70% of new supervisors, new leaders fail within the first 18 months. And part of that reason is there has not been a deliberate training program to help them understand how to get results through others in a way that we're moving together versus trying to force it. And so with I Lead Me, these stories that I'm sharing with you are things that I either went through or observed that were not good behaviors, or if it's something I observed was a great behavior. So the whole idea with I Lead Me is me working with Kevin McNulty. I want to know Kevin's story beyond work, because if I know Kevin's story beyond work and we just have a 5 minute conversation, maybe once every other week, he knows that I get him beyond work, and I'll also get to see talents that I might not see that Kevin does on the job, which
yeah,
then help Kevin be put in situations to
that's
perform
right.
better. And so part of this is becoming what I call CYA, check your awareness.
Hmm.
Got to start with yourself first, as we've already
Hmm.
looked at. But now, again, what's the surroundings telling me, and who do I have that I can put in situations that are going to help them grow and become more of the person that we're designed to be?
Yeah.
So I Lead Me boils down to pressing the pause button. I know you teach that quite a bit. How can I just in the moment pause,
Hmm.
say, okay, what's the best move to go forward here? What action should I take?
Yeah. Boy. Yeah.
And so it really boils down to this simple concept in my mind. Before I lead you, I need to understand who you are, what makes you tick, care about you as a person, know you beyond the job, point out progress and effort, not just wait till we get the big win. And I've got to choose in that moment to know what's the next step I'm going to take
Yeah.
going to help this situation.
Yeah. Wow. Beautifully said. You know, you're bringing up so many interesting ideas here. One of the things that you just really just put forth that's really beautiful, this idea, and you've heard this, and many listening will have heard this as well, that, you know, when coaching leaders and managers, sometimes you'll come across a leader that says, listen, you know, I'm a nice guy, but I don't want to know about this person's personal business. And then of course, that begs the question that, or at least the statement that I'm saying, well, I wouldn't suggest that you try to get into their business that they don't want you in. But to your point, and Stephen Covey also said this, that we all have a personal life and a private life and a public life, and that we think and behave differently in both of those lives. And that's very, very true, that we behave and we think differently. So if you're leading someone, if you don't know anything about their personal life or their that again, the way they think, the way that they behave, whether it's their hobbies or their passions, you're missing probably half of what might help motivate them or what might help develop them or something like this. And I believe that's what you're saying.
Well, I love how that you brought it back and brought that into it. Now I will, and I'm not saying I'm right. I do have a home life and a work life.
Yes, correct.
I do. I want to be authentic the same way in both of those.
It'd be a beautiful thing.
That's been my goal. In fact, I'm not bragging here. I've had people share with me for the first 6 months. I thought you were full of that. No one can behave like this.
Right.
And then I learned this is you.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so if I'm coming to work and I'm behaving in a way that's not truly authentic, I don't believe I can show up and be and give my best. I think I've
Mm.
got to, like me, trying to people please people, overworking, trying to win awards. That was because I didn't have any
Yeah.
value in myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll tell a quick story. You and I both know this gentleman, so I won't call any names. When I became the HRD, Human Resource Development Chief at Redstone, I'd worked with this person side by side. Now they're not showing up for work. They're laying out of work. They want to take leave without pay. I started charging that person AWOL. But here's what I understood. That's a human being. I want to understand what's going on that's causing this. Not that I can solve it, but I want
Got
to,
it.
if I know your story, I know how to love you. And that means
Yes.
I know how to be understanding, be patient, be
That's right.
kind. That's my personal power. But I also know that if you aren't willing to modify your behavior, that position power comes into play. But that doesn't mean I've got to be mean, rude, and
Love
ugly.
it.
Doesn't mean I've got to be, right? And so this person finally said to me one day, look, I got myself into this because they were drinking too much.
Hmm.
And I'm going to have to get myself out. Now, what does that sound like? I have tied an anchor around my waist
Hmm.
and I'm getting ready to jump in the deep end
Mm.
because the
Yeah.
anchor is what I'm choosing to do. And if I jump in and I can save myself, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
So the day finally came. We're having a discussion. And the statement is, well, John, you just got to do what you got to do.
Wow.
I'd been working to help them. Let's,
Right.
let's go to EAP. Let me support you. I know the value you bring. And so I pulled out the paperwork when he made that statement and called his name and said, well, we're going to start with a 7-day suspension. You have 10 days to reply. He got up and left. Did he come back to work with the paperwork? No. I went to Management Employee Relations. We turned it into a 14-day suspension. We mailed that to him certified. Did he come in? No. That turned into a 30-day suspension. Mailed the paperwork. Did I hear from him? No. Here's what I'm proud of, and I'm not bragging. This is through growth. Through when you read my book, you'll see the evolution of coming to you're a human being first.
Hmm.
You're a human being first, made in God's image, no matter how you're behaving. 1 week before he was to be terminated, I called. Fortunately, he answered the phone, called his name. This is John, and I'm not calling as your supervisor. I'm calling as your friend.
Mm.
please come in and put in your retirement paperwork because I know you're eligible. I've checked it. So you won't be terminated from federal service 1 week from today.
Wow.
And he hung up.
That's powerful.
He came in with his wife, and he had obviously still drinking and shaking, but he did fill out his paperwork to retire.
Wow.
Now, that was an 18-month process, Kevin. And
Yeah.
I've got people that I'm still leading wondering what's going on. Why can't you do something? You can't tell everything with them, but you got to
Correct.
balance that as
Yeah.
well. Because the
Yeah.
one thing I didn't want them doing was this person's workload. I took that on.
Mm.
So it starts with you're a human being first. You're made in God's image. And how do I show you respect,
Yeah.
whether I understand you or not? Because here's what I
Yeah.
know. When you feel seen, heard, and validated by the other person, whether they agree with you or not,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like you're bringing them into the present, inviting them to
Yeah.
go on this walk with you to get better together.
Yes. You are bringing up such a powerful story that purely and strictly illustrates I lead me, that you would not have been capable of doing that without a strong sense of who John was, how he thinks, how he behaves. And you also included this other thing that I like to talk a lot about, and that is that in that scenario, many bosses, many supervisors, many professionals would have leaned one way or the other. And I think this is not a dichotomy. It's not either you become codependent or you fire them. Many would suggest, well, and that's why I keep it professional and say it's not personal. Well, no, you're illustrating this notion that it doesn't have to be one or the other. You did both at the same time. You carried out your professional duties as a supervisor and manager, but on the other hand, you showed you cared, you loved him, you were kind to him. 18 months, that expresses a heck of a lot of patience. You know, what a beautiful story. You know, what a beautiful story. And I appreciate you sharing that so much. John, how can someone recognize, and again, I feel like maybe sometimes these are dumb questions because maybe it seems obvious, but I know that there's more to share than just what's obvious in that. And so, how can someone recognize when they're not leading themselves well?
We'll go back to chapter 2 with behaviors of choice. I was in the 3rd combat communications group, and I was one of 3 people in quality assurance. And think in terms for the listeners and those watching, combat communications mean we deploy at a moment's notice. We can be gone within 72 hours carrying communication gear anywhere in the world, setting it up and be communicating within 24 hours, launching and receiving aircraft within 72 hours. And we were doing a practice drill. So on Wednesday, we gave everyone the checklist for making sure their equipment was packed properly to go on the aircraft so there'd be no delays. On Friday, we emailed it back out just in case some people had misplaced it. And then Saturday morning, I'd been up probably for 48 hours with no sleep. I'm not using that as an excuse. I'm painting the scenario. And
Mm,
in walks Mike.
mm.
Hey, JB, you got that checklist? And here's how I didn't lead myself. Mike, are you stupid? Gave you the checklist on Wednesday, emailed it on Friday, and you're in here asking me now for that checklist. Don't you know how busy I am?
Mm.
And then behind me is Earl, my supervisor. Hey, JB, why'd you call Mike stupid? Well, I went into the justification. He deserved it. Here's what I did. And by the way, that's just who I am. That's a clue right there when you're not
Yes.
leading yourself.
Mm.
That's who I am.
Yeah.
Earl said, no, John, that's not who you are. Behavior's a choice. I'm going to prove it to you. If you had given Lieutenant Colonel Cresta the checklist on Wednesday, made sure he had it on Friday, and he walked in here this morning and asked for it, would you have called our commanding officer stupid?
Oh boy. Wow.
And I dropped my head. Kind
Yeah.
of shameful.
Yeah.
Because now here I am again. My past is creeping into my present.
Hmm.
No, sir, I wouldn't have. So when you say things like, that's just who I am, or,
Mhm.
you're not going to do that to me,
Yeah.
or you run away from a situation because you, at this moment, don't have the courage to face reality,
Yeah.
the truth about what you're going on.
Yes.
Those are situations, Kevin, when you recognize you're not leading
Yeah.
yourself.
Wow. And I got to tell you, just after listening to what you just said and thinking while you were speaking, I, and this is a bit of a rabbit hole, which I'll try to dig ourselves out of this, but that maybe there are many, many people in the United States of America that I had mentioned early on. I don't remember if we, if I mentioned it as we were recording here, whether it was before we were chatting, but that essentially that being a victim and having this long list of victim activities in your past seems to be a badge of honor. And for some, it is absolutely their identity. And you can see it everywhere. It's everywhere that this victimhood, this victim mentality seems to be like the way to go. This is how if I'm attending a summit or and meeting people around or a Zoom thing with many people on there and they say, well, introduce yourself. And let's say it's a bunch of coaches, personal development coaches or whatever. I kid you not, half of them would introduce themselves by their long list of victim things that have happened to them. The point that I'm trying to make behind the story that you just told is that when it comes to I Lead Me, um, we, in relation to that, I believe we're having a serious, serious crisis of identity, individual identity in this country, and that people identify themselves with all the crisis that have taken place and the drama and the trauma that has taken place over their life. And now they're sitting here at whatever age, and that's what and when we ask, well, who is John Bentley? You go through that long list. And then we respond, wow, how are you still alive? That's incredible. I don't even know what the question is, but I hope you know where I'm going with this.
Well, I know where you're going. And well, let me say this. I think I know where you're going. I
Yeah,
know how it landed with me because I was I was shared after the Coke can incident later on as Russell mentored me is be careful who you hang out with, because when you're outside with people
yeah,
and y'all are finding fault with everything and not bringing forth a solution that's helpful for everyone, is you're reinforcing your truth. You're
yes,
reinforcing your truth.
yeah,
And what you're doing is separating yourself from the ability, in my Air Force days, is for John, for you to reach the senior NCO ranks, especially at that time, the E8, E9 ranks. And part of this, John,
mm,
this is a later story with Dean, is I wanted to be a Chief Master Sergeant, Kevin.
which is the highest rank in the
Highest
Air
in the
Force.
rank,
Yeah.
thank you. And
Hmm.
he said, John, the problem is you can't be a chief right now. And oh, by the way, you're not ready to be a chief. But here's what you can do, John. You can start watching those great chiefs, and you can
Hmm.
learn to think and behave like they do now without the
Hmm.
rank,
Mm.
because they knew how to think and behave before they even became the rank. So their rank is not their identity.
Correct.
That's just a position they have that's meant to lift and serve
Yes.
others now.
Correct. Something they achieved. Yeah.
And part of this is being willing, I'll speak for John, having the courage to face my reality, my truth, and learn to heal. Now,
Yeah.
I'll share this, and I think I learned it from Dr. Susan David, who wrote the book Emotional Agility.
Mm.
I drew a stick figure of 7-year-old John Jr., and I put it on the back of a chair. And I took another chair and scooted up till my knees touched that chair with a picture on it. And I shared with that 7-year-old boy, what happened to you shouldn't have happened.
Mm.
The people that were saying and doing that they were hurting. They needed healing. They thought
Mm,
they were helping.
yeah.
But here's what I know
Yeah.
is I love you. We're going to work through this together. We can
Yeah.
handle it. When these situations occur, I want you to know you're safe. What I
Mm,
was really learning to do that I just discovered, Kevin, is I was being the parent that I always wish I had
yeah. Wow.
to my inner self, my inner child.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
that has been so helpful
Yeah.
when I get in
Yeah.
these situations now and he wants to
Yeah.
come out.
Yeah. And that lends itself so beautifully to my next question. And that is that it's a statement and a question, but that, you know, w- when it comes to I lead me, where do people start? I will submit to you that it does start with self-awareness. So I'm kind of giving you the answer here, but would you share, right? Where do people start to become self-aware and then and then gain the ability to lead themselves better?
Perfect. That very
Yeah.
first chapter of the book, know your story.
Know your
Know the
story.
story that is driving those behaviors
Mhm.
that you know you're not leading yourself, as you asked me earlier. And
Objectively, right?
oh,
Know it fairly objectively, right? Because you
you
can
gotta be like an
again,
investigator.
yeah, correct.
You got to understand it's like a
Mhm.
plot that you're going
Yeah.
back and looking at a scene in your life that keeps recurring and recurring, like the movie Groundhog's Day, how it
Hmm.
kept recurring and
Yeah.
recurring.
Yeah.
You got to understand what that story is telling you.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, you're that investigative reporter where you're not putting your spin on it. Here it is,
Yeah.
and that's what I discovered
Yeah.
is you don't think you're good enough.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Yeah.
that's why you work too much, not
Yeah.
be with your family. That's why people you highly respect because you want them to like you and love you is you'll do anything they say when you get under pressure,
Yeah.
even though you need to share something.
Yeah.
It's and then guess what? Here's when you
Yeah.
know you're self-aware and you're starting to self-regulate. You're starting to lead yourself as you rewrite that story and live from
Yeah.
it.
Boom. Boom. Wow. Just even a point of reference, if we moving this into the professional realm, that how that can play out, what you just said. So you've applied for a promotion to a manager position. Let's say you're a team lead or maybe a supervisor, but you want to get to the management ranks. You've applied to it four times. Four times you believe that you would be the most excellent manager, but four times you were denied that promotion. And the story that you then tell yourself was that the people around the table are stupid and they don't recognize greatness when they see it, whatever those words are. This is a point of reference that you're talking about where you kind of need to look at that objectively and say, okay, I've not been promoted four times in areas that I thought I was a perfect fit. What's going on?
Love it. I love it.
Right?
That's a great question. What's what's the truth, not my truth?
Correct. That's right. Yeah.
And what I hope would happen too is let's just say it's me or you that then we
Hmm.
would go meet with those members of the panel and
Yeah.
say, I appreciate the opportunity to come before you and interview. I've done this four times now. What can I do to better prepare myself
Yeah.
or be more competitive the next time an opening
Yeah.
occurs? You
Yeah.
notice I'm not saying, what can I do to guarantee I get the job?
That's right.
That
That's exactly right.
right? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
what can I do to be more
Yeah.
competitive when
Yeah.
another position
That's right.
opens? And as a leader, it's important we help the folks we're leading
That's right.
recognize that now, not after,
Not
but let's
after.
start talking about it and have those conversations over time
Yeah.
consistently so
Yeah.
people know that we're helping them become more competitive for where they want to go in life, not just at work, in life.
Yeah. And you and I have spoken about this many, many times. Excuse me. Many, many times that, feedback is one of the all-time great endeavors that we should all pursue. Going and and by the way, sincerely, humbly, authentically seeking feedback. not seeking what you just said, not seeking to confirm what you think is the scenario, but feedback from what they think and what they believe. And that I also believe it's important that when you're going out getting feedback from people, let's say coworkers, because you want to become a better leader or you want to become a better teammate, whatever the case might be, you're sincerely going out to find out how you can improve. I believe, I tell people all the time that you're looking for their secret thoughts. Because if I work with John and let's say I'm a jerk, let's say actually John works for me. I'm your boss, and I'm going to come and ask you how, what can I do to be a better leader, or what am I not doing so well? John's going to do this quick calculation in his head, right? I can either tell Kevin the truth and put myself in a bad scenario. He is my boss after all. Or I can just blow it off, play it safe and say, "No, Kevin, I mean, listen, we all need to work on things, but I think you're just fine." And I walk away going, "Wow, John just said I'm doing fine. I must be doing fine." And never ever understand that what John was really thinking, Kevin, you're one of the biggest jerks
Yeah,
in our whole organization. You don't get along with anybody. You need to learn how to be nice. I never hear that, right?
that's right. Well, what you reminded me of is again that behavior is believable. Is I, as the leader, as the
Hmm.
jerk, have created the environment where people can't be truthful with me
Hmm.
because when they are, I either become more of a jerk or I start
Hmm.
excluding them from
Hmm.
things.
That's
And
right.
I think what you just reminded me of, and we both follow Marshall Goldsmith, and I know he endorsed your book or either wrote the
Hmm.
forward.
Hmm. Yeah,
The
endorsed it.
gap
Yeah.
between two worlds is he teaches a process called feed forward.
Hmm.
Have that courage to go out. What can I do?
Hmm.
What can I do to improve in X? Maybe it's listening,
Yeah.
and then take that feedback, say thank you, and then you apply one or two of those to
Yeah.
try to get better, and then follow up.
Yeah.
So I think to your point, we hear feedback as a gift, and I don't disagree with that term.
Yeah.
I want you to remember that feedback is information, data that
Hmm.
informs you that
That's
you
right.
can choose to do something about to get better and become more of the person you want to be, which now gets to this point of how many of us have truly written down our own personal core values
Yeah.
and assigned a behavior to that value to live who I want to be, and then share that,
Yeah.
share your leadership point of
Yeah.
view, you write all that out with the people you lead and ask them to hold you accountable,
That's right.
knowing you're never going to hit it 100%.
That's right.
And so the bottom line is,
Yeah.
can you get to the point to where you're not looking for external validation
That's right.
to show you have value and worth, but know inside that, wow, here's who I am, flaws and all, and I love
Incredible.
me.
Incredible. Beautifully, beautifully said. Yes. You go ask some of the people that you lead, what can I do better, or which would be feed forward, or what am I doing that holds me back, from being a better leader? And, they say something like, well, Kevin, whenever we're in a meeting or we're talking, you always cut me off. You always cut me off. I never get in a full sentence. I can choose to be annoyed by that statement and say, well, John, you cut me off too. Or I can bring that in and I can say, wow, I do that. And then, as you said, choose a behavior and then send it out and say, John, I'm gonna work on listening without cutting you off. And we could say that's a behavior. Please hold me accountable. And I promise you there will be no retribution. Just, how about you just point your finger up when I do that? And I know that, and I can catch myself, and you're helping me become a better leader.
Love it, Kevin.
It's
Love
a
it.
beautiful thing.
It really, really is. And that requires, again, I have to lead myself in that situation.
You got it.
I love how you provided that wonderful scenario
Mm.
back to the concept and the principle of the book.
John, what's, beyond self-awareness now, what's one practice that you might recommend to our listeners? Be they, again, this is not just for professional endeavors. This is for your personal life too. Your marriage, your friendships, whatever they are. What's one thing that a person can begin practicing right now to lead themselves better?
This is where I am. It's soon to be 65 next month. When
You
we
don't
look,
look a day over 64, I'm telling you.
I'm telling you, don't look a day over 68.
Yeah.
Michael J. Fox,
Ugh.
Back to the Future movies, Parkinson's disease. I heard him in an interview probably 10 years ago, and it didn't resonate with me till recently. Is with the changes in life that you're going through in life, how do you deal with that? He said, well, I've learned to have no expectations of others and to accommodate them in trying to accommodate me.
Oh, crap.
And so, Kevin, what I'm practicing, I'm still not good at it. And this is part of just like your podcast, Grow Yourself. It never ends.
No, that's correct.
I don't want to call it a journey. I want to call it a daily practice.
Mhm.
Is I am working very hard, Kevin, to have no expectations of anyone else and
Interesting.
only myself.
Oof.
I want to understand Kevin McNulty, his likes, his dislikes, and I want to accommodate and do whatever I can to help him be the person he wants to be.
That's so powerful. I mean, oh, it's kind of like being a Christian, you know. It's, it's sometimes seems so simple, you know, but not so easy. You think about this idea of what you're saying about having no expectations. You can attach that to a whole bunch of things, including love, you know, and love is easy when somebody loves you back,
Yeah,
you know. Same thing with having no expectations of others. It seems like it's pretty simple until hmm, until you expected something really important from somebody else that was really important to you. And I'll never forget, and I've told this story before, that this would happen many years ago, at least 10 years ago, probably more than that, probably 15 years ago. I did a speech up in St. Louis for a group, and and Jane happened to be there. The girls were with us, and we decided to take a couple of days in St. Louis and go around after the speech. And so Jane was sitting in the back listening to the speech. And when it was all over, I thought it had gone really well. And I think by all accounts it did. Most accounts it did. But I asked Jane, I said, so what did you think? And she didn't quite, it was like she was confused. And I was thinking to myself, what is there to be confused about? And I said, how did I come across? She said, Kevin, and it was really hard for her to say this. She said, Kevin, you came across as egotistical.
mm-hmm.
And I did not expect that at all. One, because Jane is a bit of a people pleaser and she's very conflict avoidance style. And I just didn't expect that to happen. And she said, maybe it was that point or maybe a little bit later, she said, Kevin, you've told me many times over that if you ask me about things like this, to tell you the truth. I was mad. I mean, maybe not mad. I was frustrated and a little bit just put off by it.
Sure.
And I remember I did eventually let it go because we were spending time with the daughters and just didn't say anything more about it. She knew I was upset about it and bothered. And when we got back home a couple of days later, I remember going up to her in the morning saying, Jane, I really apologize for how I behaved. You're right. First of all, I asked for honest feedback. And second of all, you didn't deserve my pushback for trying to tell me the honest truth. Who else can I go to for the truth but you? And I said, please don't stop. And I promise you, I will behave differently next time.
Beautiful, Kevin.
Okay. I mean, and, but um, I really didn't even mean to go into all of that because it
No, I love it.
seems like I'm pulling this back around to myself.
Not at all.
But the point really was that I had emotionally involved myself in the feedback, and my expectation was
Yeah, there it is.
it's going to be great. Oh, it
Yeah.
was great. You did a great job. And she did not even utter those words.
Well, you're
So,
reminded. Go
yeah.
ahead. I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
no, I'm done. Please.
Well, the one thing I would encourage everyone to do is to come up with your own personal core values.
Mhm.
This has been a benefit to me that took me to my mid or upper 50s to get there. Part of the reason is because I wouldn't put in the work
Yeah,
to do it.
I hear you.
So my three values are around be approachable, be teachable, be helpful.
Yeah,
So when an expectation that I have may not be met, if I stay focused on that expectations, I'm not approachable.
yeah.
You took a time out and became approachable. So if I can be approachable, now I can be teachable. If I can be teachable, if warranted and asked for, I can be helpful. Now I back that up with the acronym WIN, win. So to be approachable, I've got to welcome different and divergent thinking.
Mm,
And then if I can be teachable, even when it kind of hits me in the heart a little bit, I want to inquire with curiosity to strengthen
mm.
the relationship and gain buy-in. And then once I'm teachable, then I might be able to use my strengths and gifts to serve others or even serve myself in a way
Yeah,
just like you did. And so I say that to recognize when you see you're not leading yourself, can you pause and go, hey, John, you're not being approachable, even
yeah,
approachable to your own thoughts,
yeah.
and let your own thoughts teach you or be approachable to someone else's
That's
idea,
right. Wow.
them teach you.
Wow. Just really just so smart and wise the way that you posed that. It's absolute wisdom nuggets, as we like to say.
Thank you.
John, would you share with the audience where they can find you, where they can find your book, just whatever it is that you
Sure.
would like to share and promote, please do.
Yeah, thank you. So I Lead Me, the book is currently on pre-sale as an ebook for $1.99 on Amazon. On Amazon.com, then search I Lead Me, John Bentley. It'll pop up the first one.
It's
And
become a bestseller, by the way.
it has become a bestseller in three different categories, absolutely. And the reason we wanted to make it available at $1.99 is just so people can have access to it.
Yeah.
It'll launch on November 4th. So when you buy today, on November 4th, you're going to get an email to be able to see that on
Yeah.
Amazon.
It's
And
beautiful.
by the way, if you're a Nook fan through Barnes and Noble, it's also on barnesandnoble.com.
Okay.
Here's what I want the folks to see. That's 70-cent profit on that book at $1.99. That 70 cents goes to the You Are a Gift Foundation.
Yeah.
Help moms
Beautiful.
overcome prescription drugs.
Yeah.
So the website for I Lead Me is ileadme.us. ileadme.us. And then if you want to learn more about the foundation, You Are a Gift, it's youareagift.foundation. Youareagift.foundation.
And that is a 501c3 as
It
well.
is a
So it's,
501c3.
there's of course tax benefits there, but again, it's a legit foundation.
Absolutely. And also you can purchase the book, You Are a Gift, from the website, which I'll sign, mail to you, or you can purchase it through Amazon.com as well. We've got it up as a Kindle as well as a paperback.
Yeah. And then of course there's your professional website, Power to Transform.
Yes, sir. I have transitioned that to a government facing website only.
Oh, I
So
see. Okay.
working with government, but
Okay.
ileadme.us. Um, a lot of leaders today, executives and business owners, they're carrying too much of the weight of leadership and they're frustrated. And I believe that's because we haven't deliberately prepared those leaders to solve the problems and drive results at their level.
Yeah.
So it's really all about taking ownership. So we do a keynote that's about inspiring ownership. We've got a 1 or 2 day workshop, I Lead Me, that to expand leadership throughout the organization. And then we have a leadership academy, which is longer period of training with individual coaching, and that's to sustain ownership in your organization
Yeah.
so that those leaders aren't the only ones solving problems and driving results.
Folks, reach out to John, go contribute to his cause. You are a gift, and I can tell you he's very accessible. He's an easy man to get in contact with, albeit even though you're busy, you are very accessible to the public. So I can't tell you enough, John. Thank you. What a joy, what a privilege it is to have you on Grow Yourself, and um, you know, and just I mean, speaking of expectations, I expected, nothing less than what you delivered, but you also exceeded my expectations in many ways and just delivered a beautiful words and ideas and knowledge and wisdom for our listeners. And I so appreciate you.
Thank you, Kevin. It's been a pleasure being with you as always, and working with and learning from you.
All right, brother. God bless you, and we'll talk soon.
God bless.
Thank you.